This game was played about a month ago in December 2025, so it's a very recent game. KataGo has a new version that is the 28B, and then they claim that this is such a strong AI right now that it can completely dominate fine art. So in this game, KataGo is playing as white, and then KataGo set the Komi to 0.5. So KataGo decided to give fine art a huge advantage, right? So this is not a normal game. It's almost like KataGo giving a small handicap to fine art, the top Chinese AI software. And let's see if KataGo can win this game. So both AI are playing at 1600 playouts. This is a very serious AI game. Fine art playing as black, KataGo is playing as white. Both players start with double star points. Black approaches, white approaches, and black uses the Keima defense. White takes the Sansan, black blocks, white crawls, and fine art decides to play the Keima. KataGo is not scared of that and therefore attaches right away. Fine art decided to not play the flying knife Joseki and just extend out. White extends out, and here black placed a very simple Joseki over here. Well, when I say very simple, right, it's probably slightly simpler than the double approach, but there's still a lot to talk about, for this Joseki. White blocks, black crawls, white extends. All these are book moves that my viewers probably know. Black honey, white blocks, and here black connects. White crawls on the second line, right? This is the new era Joseki. We always crawl on the second line. We never connect anymore. And here black extends. This is a book move, right? A lot of my viewers might be thinking about jumping out as a book move. This is not a book move. This is a mistake. The reason this is a mistake is because the next move, white plays the Hane, and locally this is simply better for white. The reason this is simply better for white is because white's stones are very efficient. We can compare this to maybe a different Joseki. For example, right, if we look at this Joseki where white plays the two-space high pincer, and then we play out the exact same thing. This allows us to see clearly, right? We see that this is a Joseki, right? The only difference is that white now has an extra stone. Comparing to the previous variation, white has an extra stone that is the Keima here. Obviously, we see that the Keima here is over-concentrating white's formation over here, right? So we can see this move is slightly less than optimal. So, but this is an equal position, which means without this stone, this would be a better position for white, right? White could have spent a move to play more efficiently, but he didn't, and that's an equal position. The point is, this would be too efficient for white, right? So black cannot even play the jump here, right? So the correct move is for black to extend out. And here white has two variations. The main variation is for white to play like this. So here white cannot just connect. If white connects, then black will simply jump out. And we can see the exchange over here is really good for black. White doesn't have a very comfortable way to extend, but later on, like these guys might be under attack. They don't have a great shape. They don't have ice space. So it's a very awkward position for white. So what white needs to do is to play better shape. One of the main variation is for white to play the pincer. This creates a miai. Either white's going to connect on the third line or white's going to crawl on the second line. Black cannot cut. If black cuts, then white can crawl. So now you owe a move in the corner, so you have to jump out. But white is already connected, which means that these three guys are in a tough spot. So black cannot cut, and therefore black will turn here, right? And obviously white has to save the two stones. And here black has two variations. So I want to go a bit deeper in here because I think a lot of my viewers would appreciate the details here. There are two variations. One is for black to jump out. The other one is for black to play the Keima. The two variations look similar, but actually very different. When black plays the jump, this means that white's push on top is a sente, forcing black to extend, which means that the next move, if white plays the Keima, it's very difficult for black to come out on the, through here. If you play here, I can attach. And tactically, it's very, very difficult for black, right? It's not possible to come out through here, basically. If you play the attach, obviously white's going to hane. And because white has an extra stone here, very hard for these guys to survive. So likely what's going to happen is black going to sacrifice the three stones and play the invasion over here, making use of the Aji over here and make this stone very comfortable and put pressure on white stone on top. This is the idea for jumping out. But sometimes you'll see players playing the Kema. The idea of playing the Kema is when white plays the Kema like this, trying to kill 3 stones. Now black has 2 options. One is still to invade and follow up with the same idea. The other one is for black to attach and fight this out. Black can extend, white pushes. Now because we play the Kema, this is no longer a sente for white, therefore black can fight this out. White cuts, black blocks, and here they're going to go into a fight. Now, temporarily, maybe this is not the best variation for black, because what white can do is to sacrifice the corner and gain a very monstrous outside. But eventually, it's a possibility, right? It's a very serious tactic that black can do here, right? Black can attach, extend, or even attach and play the double hane. Now, because white is missing a stone here, there's a lot of struggle that black can do. So that's the main difference between you playing out the Kema and playing out the jump. In the actual game, KataGo chose a different variation, and this variation only works because white has a 3rd line stone over here. Black extends, and here white simply turns, putting maximum pressure on black's corner. Black cuts, white crawls. Black hane here, the cut doesn't work tactically, therefore white plays the clamp. And obviously black cannot extend because white can cut, and pretty much all my viewers know what to play here, right? We can simply turn over here, and we can see this is going to be white kills black. White has 4 liberties, and black only has 3. So black cannot extend, which means black has to connect. White connects on the 1st line. It looks quite miserable for black, but this is what AI, what AI has always, loved to play, right? Just a bunch of 2nd line and 1st line moves, and somehow it's an equal position, right? Something that we also learned a lot from AI. Black pushes on top, white crawls on the 2nd line, and here black has to come back and make the corner alive by playing hane connect. And this is the profits that white was able to get. That is to suppress black's corner. The next move, KataGo plays out the 3-space extension, to make sure that these 5 stones are okay. Black plays the Kema, that's a sente against white's group. White has to play the Kosumi to defend the weakness. Black squeezes, white connects, and here black jumps on the 2nd line, not only securing a bunch of territory, but the 2nd line stone is also aiming at the life and death problems that white has. We can see this is not really an eye yet, and obviously there are no 2 eyes over here. So white will have to worry about the life and death in here at some point. The next move is something that I didn't quite understand. So white played over here and then come back and play a tiger's mouth. It looks a little bit redundant to me. It's like a bit of over concentration. It's not a move that I understand, but since KataGo is playing this, right? I have to take some time to think about it. Like, why is this so good? Well, I think the reason is because this is not really over concentration, right? What I understand is that this is really trying to reinforce this group and make a lot of eye space. When white's group over here is very thick, it exert a lot of influence towards the right side, right? Which is going to help out, for the fight over here. So I think the tiger's mouth is a good move because of that. But obviously, I was not able to appreciate this move right away. Black approaches, and here white hane first. That's a sente. Black has to make the corner alive, and here white attaches on top. Black extends in. Here black can also think about playing the hane. That's a different Joseki. White extends, black plays the Kosumi. White also plays out Kosumi. Black pushes, white hane. Book move is for black to cut first. White Atari, black extends, white plays the bamboo, and here black sacrifices the stones right away. Right? We cut first, create some aji, and then right away sacrifice the 2 stones to build on top. So this will become a Moyo competition, and I think this is playable for both sides, but obviously I could be wrong. Black extended into the corner, white connects, black crawls, and white simply extend at the 3-4, which is a very simple Joseki. Black hane, and here white kicks first. That's a sente. Black has to answer that, and here white comes back to play the hane. The idea for white to kick first is to watch out for his security problems, right? KataGo always has to worry about the life and death of this group. This move obviously loses a bit of territory on top, but it makes sure that later on white has this way to get out, right? The clamp is a very nice way to get the group out. White comes back to complete the Joseki. Black double hane, white simply extend. Very well played. Black connects, and here white plays out a beautiful move in the center, not only expanding the Moyo, but indirectly aiming at black's insecurity. Black pushes on top, white obviously has to extend and not allow the Hane, and the next move I really appreciated from Fine Art. Fine Art plays the big Keima. This is very well played. If we play the small Keima, it's not as efficient because white now can just play the Keima from behind, and we can see this is definitely territory now, right? And we can see now white's formation over here is very well played, right? Every move seems to be very strong, right? And you can now appreciate the extraordinary understanding from KataGo, right? Seemingly it looks over-concentrated. However, when white builds like this all becomes territory. And all of a sudden, the efficiency is coming back. So KataGo is definitely seeing a lot more than us. That's why Fine Art plays the big Keima, making sure white doesn't have a very comfortable way to enclose this piece of territory. Right now, if you play the attach, I can Hane it, and it's uncomfortable for white. So very well played by Fine Art. So till this point, I think KataGo managed to catch up just very slightly, right? It's not enough to compensate for Komi yet. Maybe at this point, Fine Art is still leading by about 5 points. So KataGo still has a lot of work to do if he wants to catch up. All right, so the next move, KataGo decides to clamp here, right? This is about the mutual security. White's group here is getting safer because the stone here, and black's group over here is, has to worry about the security very soon. Black pushes, and here white cuts. Black turns. So in the actual game, I was checking this part, and I didn't quite understand why black couldn't just Atari here. Obviously, white can run, right? Because the ladder works. Therefore, this tactically works for white. So I did a bit of analysis, right, by myself, just Atari, and then I was thinking about clamping here for black, right? The idea is to, sacrifice the 2 stones and get a very nice shape. The problem, though, is white's going to Atari. Black Atari, white takes. Here, black has a few options, right? Black can throw back in again. However, this is a gote, right? White already gained a lot of stones, which means this group is very safe now. And here, white can come back and protect the territory over here. Now, if black doesn't throw in and just play a move in the center, here white can also come back and protect the territory. The idea from KataGo was not just going for these points, rather to get these extra stones in the center to make sure that his group over here is protected, and then he can do whatever he wants to do on the outside. So that's the idea from KataGo, right? And the fact that black builds a wall over here is completely useless at this point because white has so many stones over here. Black doesn't have much to build. So this shows you the extraordinary understanding of AIs. In the actual game, what happened was that black did not Atari here. Black decided to directly turn, trying to attack the 2 stones as a whole. White plays the Keima, threatening the center group, and here black decides to counterattack. White blocks and black Hane, so they go into a very fierce fight. And here KataGo chose a simple variation, playing the tiger's mouth, aiming at the cut. Obviously the cut is too strong, so Fine Art decided to connect. White plays the tiger's mouth to capture the 3 stones, and black adds another move to secure the connection in the center. KataGo adds another move and completely captures the 3 stones. And at this point, Fine Art adds another move in the center as well, not only strengthening this connection completely, but also coming into white's territory. White adds a move to protect the territory, and here black decides to Tanuki, because with this move, exchanging with white's move here, Fine Art already gained a lot of compensation for the loss over here. So Fine Art plays the Hane, white connects, black plays the tiger's mouth, white Atari, black connects, all very common follow-ups, and white has to prevent the Hane on the second line by squeezing over here. And finally, Fine Art comes back to protect his piece of territory here. So we can see KataGo gained a good piece over here, but immediately Fine Art was able to get some compensation back over here. So it's a little Moyo competition, and the game is still quite close. Very well played by both sides. And here, the next move, KataGo turns into the corner. That's the absolute best move to play. A lot of my viewers might be worried, right? And this happens quite a lot, especially if you're a low dan to mid dan level player. You might be rushing to invade here. This would not be a great move. The reason it's not a great move is, first of all, this move doesn't generate you any points, right? It's a very it's almost like a panic move, right? Because you see that black has a lot of territory, you're like, okay, I must reduce it right away. But this is the wrong mindset, and it takes time to change that mindset. A lot of times we're too worried about what our opponent gets, rather we forgot what we got in the process. So if you play like this, then what black's going to do is to simply crawl at the 3-3. This move by itself is a ton of points, right? It's like 20 points over here. If white hops in, then black can come back and defend. So we spent 2 moves over here, but we didn't really destroy too much territory from black. Now, what we gained over here by destroying black's territory is way overcompensated just by this 1 move alone. So that's why this idea is not great for white. Now, if white spends another move, because you're afraid that, you're going to have connection issues, then black will Hane connect. And we can see that black is already leading in terms of territory because your moves are not very efficient. They're not doing much except just trying to reduce black by a little bit. So this is a very common mistake, right, from amateur level players. When we look at AI, right, what they did is to take the big move on the outside and not worry about black's Moyo over here. At the end of the day, if black spends an extra move, he doesn't gain as much as what we gain in the corner. So obviously that idea takes time to appreciate. The next move, Fine Art plays a move in the center, which is, it's a very profound move, right? Because Fine Art is able to sense the weakness in the center, right? This shape looks really strong, but in front of AI, they think it's really weak, right? So that's pretty amazing. I would never have played a move like this because it looks quite slow, but actually it's very necessary to protect the center. Now, even if Fine Art spends a move here, KataGo decides to challenge the center anyway. Black blocks white Atari, black now connects, and here white extends the stone out, and black adds another move, Atari in the center. Of course, there's still later on the possibility for white to connect in the center, forming a triangle, forming a 3 stone, and then that's still a dead shape. So that's something that Fine Art still has to worry about. And here, KataGo decides to challenge black's Moyo by attaching over here. Black Hane, white extends, and Fine Art decides to go for mutual destruction. So he hops into white's territory as well. White now invades black, black jumps, and here, white comes back and fixes the cutting point. Black jumps in, white pushes, black pushes, white cuts, and here black connects. We can see that Fine Art managed to damage white's territory quite a bit as well. But of course, KataGo is going to do something inside black's Moyo as well. So white plays the Kema. Black obviously cannot allow white to connect home. White pushes, black cuts, white Atari, and black now connects. And KataGo extends on the 4th line. And Fine Art crawls on the 2nd line. This is the correct move. If black goes for the kill, that doesn't work because white can push first and then turn. When black connects, here white is going to jump. Now, if black tries to survive in the corner, white Hane, and then black extends, here white can play the Kema, and we can see white already has a shape that's alive. And not to say that black has some life and death issues, so I wasn't very accurate. So I think here, when white turns, black probably has to play the tiger's mouth. White jumps, and then this is the correct way for black to have a clean alive, right? So, but the result is the same because white adds another move, and white has no life and death issues, right? White has still has some room to get out. So white can live very comfortably, and black doesn't want that. Now, at this point, if black goes for the kill, for example, if black jumps like this and go for the kill, then white can also play the Hane connect. And definitely this is going to be white kills black. So black cannot play like this. So black already cannot just Atari on top and try to kill white. And therefore, Fine Art reads that out and play the crawl on the 2nd line. White pushes through and black cuts. And white Atari, black extends, white Atari on top, and black decides to fix the weakness. If black gets out, that would be an instant knockout for Fine Art, right? Fine Art would be resigning very soon because white can push over here. Now, there are many ladders. There's a ladder over here, there's a ladder over here, and these 3 stones has a serious cutting point. So this doesn't work for black at all, right? Black cannot extend, and therefore Fine Art plays the tiger's mouth in the center. Now, this is probably the first mistake by Fine Art. Fine Art should have connected in the center instead, because connecting here leaves no weakness, which means that center is very strong. The tiger's mouth, though, gives the possibility for this peep at the tengen. Now let's see how KataGo exploit this mistake. So in the actual game, KataGo connects in the center. Fine Art adds a move to make sure the center is dead, but then KataGo peeps at the weakness. And all of a sudden, Fine Art is in a tough spot now, right? Because of the tiger's mouth, right? If the stone was at a connection point, then this doesn't work, right? There's nothing in here. If black just connects, then that's not good for black at all because white has a obvious follow-up. That is to jump over here. Obviously, white can play over here first, but when you give such a serious follow-up, right? This move is basically cutting off this giant dragon over here. So this is very serious threat by white. So Fine Art cannot leave that weakness. So Fine Art decides to attach like this, but then white Hane, black extends, and white now captures in the center. We can see KataGo managed to create a weakness over here. That is the Atari. And this is all because Fine Art's tiger's mouth. So here, that's a sente, otherwise white's gonna ladder. Black extends, white now cuts, black connects, and white also connects, cutting off the two groups. And this mistake is really paying, Fine Art is really paying a heavy price for this tiger's mouth because of how good KataGo is. So now that's a sente. Black has to use the empty triangle to get out, and white comes back to protect the remaining territory. Black plays another, so if here black goes for the kill, then white can attach on top, and white has no problem getting out because of black's liberty issues. So Fine Art literally had to add another move, making sure this group is comfortable, and therefore put pressure on white's group. But here, KataGo handles this like very smoothly. Attaching over here, black plays the Keima, preventing white from exiting, but white Hane on the second line. Black Atari, white plays the tiger's mouth. This is a sente because it's looking at the peep. Black cannot stand that peep, so black has to fix that weakness, and white jumps over here. White is already alive. If black goes for the kill, then white can Atari. That's a sente, and then white can just connect like this. And white definitely has two eyes. So in the actual game, black connected over here. White plays out the connection, prevents the sente over here, right? So white has to respond to that. White plays out the tiger's mouth. Black squeezes, getting rid of the eye over here, and also strengthen the connection, making sure there's no cutting points. And white plays the eye making move. And here we can see white has an eye over here, and this eye is not breakable. If black tries to break, then we can play out like this. And we can see that white definitely has two eyes. So white is alive inside, which means it's very, very successful. Used to be black's territory, but now white managed to live in a very decent way. So at this point, Fine Art already has lost the advantage, and KataGo has already gained the momentum in this game because of a very serious mistake, right? For their level, a tiger's mouth like this is a very big mistake. All right, so let's see if Fine Art can come back. So Fine Art pushes, white obviously blocks that. And the next move, Fine Art Atari over here. I would say this is probably the losing move for Fine Art. I'm not sure why Fine Art played this move over here. Obviously, this move has a lot of value because we can capture here, right? If we capture, then black center got a lot stronger, right? But obviously, KataGo is not going to connect here because it's not a sente against the life and death for white's group in the center. What Fine Art should have played is to peep here and try to cause problems. White plays the extension to prevent the weaknesses, and here black pushes, white Hane, black cuts, white can Atari to defend. Black squeeze Atari, white connects, and if black connects, white also connects to prevent the cutting point. So first of all, Fine Art can play a couple moves over here, and next we can get Atari and then Hane here. The reason we need to play the Hane is to make sure that our center is alive, because black still has life and death issues because white was able to cut in the center. This is only a bend 3, which means that it's not a life shape. So this is what Fine Art should have played to make this game into a close game. However, after losing the momentum, probably Fine Art is just trying some unconventional stuff by Ataring over here, hoping that KataGo would connect. But KataGo did not connect and played the Kosumi here. And now Fine Art is really falling behind. At this point, we can already see from the move that Fine Art he knows that he's very behind. And he plays the second line move, trying to enclose everything over here. White jumps in the center. This is already a very big warning against Black's group in the center. Black really needs to make a life over here, like playing any sort of move to make a life right now. But Fine Art knows that even if he makes a life, it's still a losing game. Therefore, he goes for a gamble, playing a move over here, claiming all the territory. But KataGo says enough is enough, and he peeps in the center, and the Black's dragon is in serious trouble. Black pushes, White pulls the stone back, and Black attaches. White plays out the tiger's mouth, and we just don't see two eyes for Black. Black plays the connection, White squeezes, Black takes, White throws back in, Black only has one eye. This is all looking hopeless. Black now pushes, White obviously blocked Black Atari, and White captures the 3 stones in the center. And at this point, Fine Art decided to resign. The reason Fine Art resigned is because the dragon in the center is completely dead. There's no way to survive here, right? First of all, this doesn't work. If you push over here, White is simply going to block. If you take, I don't fight the Ko, I just connect, and Black is just dead. So there's nothing going on here, and there's nothing going on anywhere else, right? Like, this is a very clean dead. White is rock solid over here. Pushing here, I will just connect. Nothing that Black can do. So at this point, Fine Art decided to resign. And KataGo managed to win this game with a 0.5 point Komi. And it's quite insane how much KataGo has improved, right? Just maybe a year ago, it's still a 50-50 between KataGo and Fine Art. But with the new version of KataGo was able to beat Fine Art with, like KataGo probably started the game with like a 5% win rate because the Komi was 0.5 points. And just through, playing properly, and, Fine Art was not able to even hold the position, which is hard to think about because Fine Art used to be the champion for AI, right? It has won the AI championship before. But KataGo has improved so drastically that is pretty insane to watch. So anyway, KataGo right now is definitely the strongest AI in the world. No one is doubting that anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed this AI game commentary. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's the only way to make sure you don't miss on a future commentary on AI games, big tournaments, or epic historical games. I make a lot of game commentaries every week, and I hope to see you all in my next video.